Dr. K. Vinuta, working as an associate professor in our college from Department of Pharmaceutical Quality Assurance. I am immensely pleased to introduce Mrs. T. Rajni, Senior Business Validation Lead, Merck USA, as a distinguished speaker for today's session. Mrs. T. Rajni is a result-oriented professional with over 15 years of experience in computer system validation, specifically in the pharmaceutical and biotechnology sectors. Rajni specializes in authoring and reviewing documentation to ensure compliance with FDA regulations throughout the system development lifecycle. Her extensive experience encompasses validating commercial, off-the-shelf, custom, and software as a service products. She is a strong leader and excels in guiding cross-functional teams to meet challenging timelines and compliance standards. Mrs. Rajni is having extensive experience in computer system validation across major pharmaceutical companies such as Merck, Bristol Myers Squibb, Johnson & Johnson, and Celgene. This highlights her expertise in ensuring compliance and maintaining the integrity of the systems used in clinical and regulatory environments. The ability to lead validation efforts and mentor teams' positions proved her as an asset in the pharmaceutical and biotechnology industries. With this brief introduction, I would like to invite Mrs. Rajni ma'am to take over the session.
Thank you, Vinita madam. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mamta madam, for giving this opportunity to share my CSV pharma experiences and my journey throughout the pharma organizations. Let me introduce myself. I'm Raj, and you guys have already gave my introduction, but let me put in my words, right? I'm Rajani Tautam, currently working as a business validation lead at Merck Pharmaceutical Company. Prior to Merck, I was in same role, but in different companies like Bristol Myers Squibb, J&J, Celgene. Basically, my responsibilities include to make sure that systems are in compliant, current, and there is and overseeing the SDLC, software development lifecycle, and making sure that the patient safety, efficacy, or quality are not sacrificed. End of the day, we all are working for patients. They are the one who should not be affected, right? So with that, I'll start my presentation. Let me know when you guys can see my screen. Is someone else sharing?
No, ma'am. No, you can start sharing, ma'am.
Okay, replace current share, I would say.
Yes, ma'am. It's like it's already.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. We are able to see, ma'am.
Okay. Before I start, how many of you know, anyone has any idea of computer system validation? Have you vaguely anywhere heard about it? It's okay if you don't know. I mean, I will try my best to give you basic idea of what it is by end of the presentation.
Yeah, we have in our syllabus, generally in B Pharmacy as well as M Pharmacy.
Okay.
This 21 CFR 11 is a part of the chapters we go through, but in elaborate computer system validation is not discussed in detail. That's why we thought we can go for this lecture to our students. Also, it is useful. Means once we learn, we'll train our students also in this computer system validation. Means how it is going to be done really, means practically in the industry.
Okay, that's good. Good to know. So yeah, just to give a note or a disclaimer saying that, you know, this is something which I have experienced in the industry. You should always.
Can you go for the slide share and slide mode?
I am sharing it, right? Or you want me to do the
No, ma'am. Presentation mode, ma'am.
Yeah,
Now,
it's
is it available?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so the disclaimer is something, the information I'm providing in the presentation today is something, it's my experience, right? If an individual want to know actual information, or if they wanted to confirm, just don't go by this presentation. You should go to your FDA site and look for the actual regulations your situation pertains to. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. I will just give an agenda. What are we going to discuss today? It's computer system validation, when it came into existence, and why do we have to do it? What is computer system validation? At the same time, what is the relation to CSV? And computer system validation is called, in a short form, it's called a CSV. What is the relation between CSV and 21 CFR Part 11? And in the first place, why 21 CFR Part 11? Why CSV? Why pharmaceuticals have to abide to these regulations, and why do we have to do it, right? And what is 21 CFR Part 11? It contains electronic records and signatures. We'll have more information in the next slides, but from an agenda perspective, I wanted to give you an overview what we're going to discuss today. What are the key elements of CSV? What are the roles? Who plays the roles in CSV? And what are the deliverables of CSV? And then what are the phases in CSV? And I'm not sure if you guys have heard, here and there in pharmaceutical, you hear about GXP applications. What is GXP application? And towards the end, we'll conclude what CSV does. And if you guys have any questions, we'll spare some time towards the end for the questions. I'm not sure if I will be taking entire time, but let's see how it goes. Otherwise, also you can ask me questions later. You can reach out to me. I can give my email ID. Whatever I can know, I'll be happy to share. Okay, so what is computer system validation in pharma world, right? So in the pharmaceutical end-to-end process, computer system validation plays a crucial role by ensuring that all computerized systems, when I say computerized systems, in our world right now, it is a technology or a software system, which is being used in manufacturing or your testing or in your labs, wherever it is, right? So these systems should follow certain regulations, and which is governed by FDA. And why FDA wanted to follow these? Because end of the day, any process, any testing, any information you're providing to FDA, it will affect the patient. So to safeguard the product quality, patient safety, efficacy, FDA governs these rules, and pharmaceuticals have to abide to these rules and make sure that the systems you're using to produce the drug or to produce the product should follow these regulations, right? So it's CSV. A lot of people in pharmaceutical, it's not a smooth path. Okay, they think that most of the things, IT, the development thinks that we are the showstoppers. We cut off their path, but it's not like that. Actually, CSV is a bridge between the compliance and the product or the drugs, I would say, for the smooth process. End of the day, when an FDA inspection is here, making sure that everything is in place, you have to follow certain guidelines. It's an organized way of producing the drugs, I would say. So just in history of when actually this computer system validation has came into occurrence, right? So in 1970, computer system validation was started, and then there is in 1983 some updates happened. 1997 is the crucial one, where back then there wasn't much technology, or emerging technologies were not this much, right? It was there, but very less. So when by 1997, what happened is all the pharmaceuticals, they want, as technology is evolving, they wanted to update the systems from manual to automation, right? Maybe previously they used to put it in the on a paper, right? They used to write the lab records on a paper. Later, there is a system called LIMS, Lab Information Management System. So they wanted to put the information in that and submit it to FDA. So if that is the case, FDA came up with new guidelines which is called 21 CFR Part 11. If you want to submit your data to FDA regarding any system, right, it is automatic. It's not manual, meaning you're not writing it on a paper, this information. You are submitting through a software system, then you need to comply to 21 CFR Part 11. That's what the whole boom came up. 21 CFR Part 11 came up in 1997 with electronics and signatures. And then 2003, there is a EMEA. 2011, there is risk-based approach guidelines. So every time there are new information is produced by FDA, and pharmaceuticals have to follow these guidelines. Who is responsible for computer system validation? Mainly it is quality assurance personnel are responsible for verifying the valid use of computer systems. So it's not just okay, you're creating a drug, right? It's not just creating, right? Whether you have created it for the intended use. What was your purpose of creating it? Did you actually meet it, right? And without sacrificing the quality, patient safety, efficacy. So that whole thing is taken care by CSV. This organized process will make sure that the product is produced for intended use. Okay. So how I said a few minutes back, right? What is CSV, right? Anywhere it can fall in. CSV can be in a manufacturing industry. It can, meaning pharma manufacturing, and clinical, laboratory, labeling systems, right? So it's an organized path to produce your drug. It may be from the protocol to the packing, but still there are certain things to be followed to achieve the drug productivity without sacrificing the quality. Why is CSV needed, right? To comply with FDA 21 CFR Part 11. So if you see on the left-hand side, right, FDA electronic submissions, 21 CFR Part 11, and CSV. So FDA is asking for certain things. If you are submitting electronically, right, they need some information. So if a person is actually validating a paper document, right, he's making sure what are the details of that patient, is the age correct, is the address correct, how physically a person is validating a document. The same way, software systems, which is having the same data, should be built in, meaning that system, which is actually capturing the data of a patient, right, it should have a field as patient name, address, age, or maybe adverse event form, whatever it is, whatever the system you are building, make sure it is similar to human physical form, right? It's a physical form. If you compare the physical form and an electronic form, there should not be any difference. It should be the same. So in order to have that, these are the things FDA is looking for. 21 CFR 11, which has electronic records and signatures. And to validate these, CSV comes into picture. FDA, 21 CFR Part 11, and CSV. CSV is a big world, but in a basic way, I could say it's a base validation of these electronic records and signatures. CSV is primarily associated with 21 CFR Part 11, as this FDA regulation specifically outlines requirements for ensuring the authenticity, integrity, reliability of electronic records and signatures used in regulated industries, making CSV a crucial process to demonstrate compliance with Part 11 standards when using computerized systems to manage such data. So why FDA wants, it has to be in such a way, right? 21 CFR Part 11 electronic records and signatures, right? So it's like, it has to validate, okay, is this the correct patient? Is it the correct age? Is it the correct signature of that patient? that kind of information. It's like authenticity, integrity of the data. Everything should be accurate. It is looking for the data integrity part. What happens if we do not meet these regulations, right? Failure to validate systems can lead to significant regulatory repercussions, including fines, products, recalls, and damage to a company's reputation. So when an FDA inspection is announced, they come to industry, Merck-like companies, right? And if the electronic records or the signatures or any other regulations are not met, you will get a observation from FDA. You may get a recall of the product. So it will cost a lot if you are not following these regulations. That's the reason most of the pharmaceuticals, they will follow CSV, not in this way, but in some other way. But they have to follow certain organized path to meet these regulations. So what is 21 CFR Part 11, right? As I said, it's a code of CFR is nothing but Code of Federal Regulations, Part 11. There are so many parts, but subpart B we are talking about, which is electronic records and signatures. It's an FDA regulation. 21 CFR plays a pivotal role with the pharmaceutical and life sciences industries. The regulation sets forth stringent requirements for the management of electronic records and electronic signatures, and compliance with these requirements is an integral part of CSV process. So I'll just give you a lame example, right? Imagine FDA as your bank. In previous days, or now also, a lot of people go to bank, you take a form, sign on it, and then you withdraw money or whatever activity you need to do, you do it. On the other hand, we have apps now, right? You open your app, you do the same level of activity what you do physically when you go to a bank. This is how it is. So doing on your app is something from 1997. 21 CFR Part 11 came into picture. Okay, you want to submit your data, any pharmaceutical, electronically or digitally. So then you have to follow these rules. Any data you're submitting becomes in your electronic record. And electronically signature is nothing but, if you're withdrawing a form or some money, you are signing on it. Right? You are the authorized user who has to sign on that. For your bank account, I cannot go and sign on it, right? Similarly, right? So that authenticity, authorization, however you are doing in the paper form should be similar to in the electronic form. That's what it talks about. A record, electronic, any data submitting digitally to FDA is called electronic record, whatever it is, and then it is signatures. So any handwritten signature, manual submission when you did, that becomes an electronic signature now. So any signature you are actually applying in your systems, it may be a patient data collection systems like Viva EDC or LIMS systems or any other system where you are applying a signature, you're approving something within the system that is equivalent to a handwritten signature, which we used to do it in the past. Before 1997, submissions used to be in paper. There will be a big pile of papers submitted to FDA. They used to review the data physically. It used to take a lot of days. Now it is all computer, meaning electronically submitted. So that's the difference between electronic record, electronic signatures, and manual submissions before 97. So I just told this already. So previously it was all paper documentation submissions, and now it is electronically done. There are other kind of advantages and disadvantages with the paper and electronically, right? So since it is a human-based activity back then in FDA, there are chances of inconsistencies, right? It's a human, it's not a robot or a computerized program which is actually validating this information, right? So it was all very limited. Now, I won't say that there were no computer system back then. There were, but it was limited, and 21 CFR Part 11 didn't come. Since the technology was evolving, systems were emerging, so then pharmaceuticals went up and said that we wanted to submit electronically, and FDA came up with these regulations for electronic submissions. So how did this whole 21 CFR Part 11 regulation has changed the world, right? What advantages we had? More electronic record acceptance, like the data line by line, which we used to write it in a paper, is not there anymore. It's all in the software system. One system, you have everything, like your bank app. System validation requirements, you can validate better on a electronic system than on a paper, right? So for example, you have a username and password. What do you just give your username and password. From a validation perspective, what we do is, okay, how many characters it has to accept. So you have to build a system in such a way that it should not lose its authenticity or integrity, right? So more stringent regulations, more stringent systems are being built so that it cannot be forged. Audit trail creation. You need to have a history of it, right? Even a system, when a software system which is built, take your bank application only, right? There should be history. Who has been, even you are, if you are doing the activity, right? When did you do it? On what date did you do it? Did you do withdraw? Did you actually do something else? So that whole audit trail should be there. So they came up with this 21 CFR Part 11 talks about all these things, right? It should have audit trails. It should have electronic records, signatures. No one should be able to forge your user authentication. And these kind of things, it came up. It just talks about records and signatures, but underneath that, there are other constraints to be taken into consideration when you're validating these systems. So electronic record acceptance, system validation requirements, audit trail creation, secure electronic signatures. No one should be able to forge your signature, right? Those kind of requirements came into picture. Data integrity focus. Data should not be forged, or it should have it. It should be very integrated, basically. Reduced human errors because it's a software system, not there is no human intervention, right? So next. So it's just a fact that 21 CFR Part 11 is applicable. As I said, it's only electronics and the signatures. So anything digitally you wanted to apply and submit to FDA, that's when 21 CFR Part 11 comes into picture. Any manual submission, if you still wanted to submit your data regarding your a device or a drug, right, manually on a paper, then you don't need to comply with 21 CFR Part 11. So what are the key elements of 21 CFR Part 11? I hope you guys are not bored. You have any questions? Am I too fast? Let me know. I'm just in the flow, but let me know if it is too fast, or if you have a question. You guys are good? Can I continue?
Yes, continue.
Okay. So 21 CFR Part 11, key elements. What it does, I just gave a few sentences in the before slide, but electronic records. Regulation sets standards for electronic records, which are digital forms of data used in various processes such as clinical trials and manufacturing. It requires the electronic records be accurate, secure, and trustworthy. So any record you're actually submitting should be accurate, secure, trustworthy, meaning the systems which are building and which accepts these electronic records should be built in such a way that the software behind these systems should be accurate, secure, and trustworthy. You should not be able to delete, you should not be able to duplicate the data, right? You have to build in that way. Electronic signatures. The regulation mandates that electronic signatures must be unique to each user and cannot be reused or reassigned. Just like that on paper, right? On the row where you have to sign it, you will sign it. No one should be your signature should be unique. No one should be able to duplicate or forge your unique identity. That's why you have username, passwords, and signatures in some of the forms where your signature should be unique. Then access controls, authentication, right? If you are a patient or you are in one of the systems, someone else who has no access to that system should not be able to see this information, this patient information, right? So the system should be built in a secured way where no one else should be able to see the data. Only authorized personnels should be able to see the data. So when you're building a system, make sure electronic records are accurate, signatures are unique, access controls are maintained. And then audit trails, history. History of information is very much important because, for example, today you developed a drug, FDA approved it, everything is going fine. Down the line in next 5 years, there is an inspection. FDA is in the premises. They look for the history. Okay, I approved on 5 years back. What is happening now? Are you compliant? Because just because it is approved, that doesn't mean that you are free to go do whatever you want, right? No, it's not. You complete constant monitoring should be there. Your audit trail should speak the fact, right? So audit trails building is very much important in 21 CFR Part 11. The system should be built in such a way that there is an audit factor embedded in it, and should be user should be able to show that, okay, for example, I have tested this functionality, for example, right? Okay, when, who, what is the result of it, right? Okay, that was 2 years back. What happened in the recent 6 months? So you should be able to show that audit history of that particular record when asked by the inspectors, right? And then documentation. So there is I'm not sure if you guys know about it. A lot of people get confused between verification and validation. Verification is something you are verifying it. Validating is something you have a proof that you have verified it. So testing is verification. CSV comes as a validation. In other words, so you might have verified your result is successful, and if you don't have a documented proof that your result is successful, and you will not be able to show it to inspectors. And if you do not have a documentation or documented proof of your result, inspector believes that you did not do the testing because you don't have a proof. So documentation plays a very important role in CSV, in CFR Part 11, everywhere, all the inspections. You need a documented proof for evidence for everything. So, okay, I comply with electronic records. I comply with electronic signatures. Here is my testing. This is what we have done. These are our SOPs. These are our policies. So the documentation plays an important role in the entire CSV process. Compliance monitoring. So monitoring and maintenance of the systems is important. It goes through a life cycle. It's called production. Once a drug is developed and an application is built on the drug and people start using it, for example, your online bank application is there, right? Or take your phone. Every now and then you get a message from iPhone saying that a newer version of iPhone is there. Go ahead and upgrade it, right? So those are the continuous monitoring happening, patches applying to the existing softwares to make it more beneficial for the users. We are the users of iPhone, right? So that continuous monitoring is important. It will be there. Maybe one user had a issue, So they have to come up with a solution that becomes a patch and becomes a newer version of that software system. So that complete consistent monitoring is important for any of the software systems. So, okay, we learned like what is 21 CFR Part 11, how it applies to our software systems or any application which is electronically submitting the information to FDA. But who all have to comply with this? Does every organization or which is related to healthcare has to? No. These are the things: pharmaceuticals, medical diagnostics, biotechnology, drug and device manufacturers, medical devices, biological developers, software as medical device, clinical research organizations, they have to comply with 21 CFR Part 11 if you are submitting the data to FDA electronically. Electronic record. What is an electronic record? Is an information or data created, generated, sent, communicated, received, or stored in digital format that is maintained in a computer system or electronic format, right? Anything during the process of drug development, drug approval, whatever, the whole process, if you are digitally capturing the information, sending it, storing it, that becomes an electronic record, because this information goes into the FDA and you have to comply with 21 CFR Part 11, right? In the context of regulatory standards, particularly under 21 CFR Part 11 of the US FDA, electronic records are defined as records that are created and maintained in a digital format rather than on a paper. Okay, that's a record. I know it might be a little confusing, what is a record, how a record can be, right? So for that purpose, I just gathered this is just a minimum of it, but there might be a lot of other electronic records. So like, what could be an example of electronic record? Clinical trial data. Data collected during clinical trials, including participant information, which is patient's information, trial results, adverse event reports, often stored in electronic case report forms. So these are type of electronic records, right? This information, there might be a system where this information is stored. Like I know the system, which is EDC, electronic data capture, for clinical trials, right? So that is prone to 21 CFR Part 11, and the information collected is called electronic records in those systems. Similarly, manufacturing records, like there might be a labeling system, just not the clinical trials, right, or drug development. There are other systems that falls under these, and it also called as an electronic record, which is manufacturing systems. There might be as I said, a label system or a label generator. It's a equipment, but still, if it is passing some information to FDA, that becomes an electronic record. And then laboratory results. So in labs also there are systems where they store their information. Like I know LIMS, lab information management system, where they store the lab information, like about their vitals and all that information. So those are also considered as electronic records. You can find a lot of examples for electronic records, but these are something which I just gathered. Electronic signatures, often referred to as e-signature since it's electronic. It's a digital version of handwritten signature. See that it is a digital version of handwritten signature, right? Before it was handwritten, when you are submitting is electronically, it is called e-signature. It is used to verify the identity of a person signing a document or to confirm their agreement to the contents of the document. Here is simple breakdown of what electronic signature and how they work, right? Electronic signature examples. What can be the examples of an electronic signature, right? If you see here, a clinical trial agreement signed electronically by a principal investigator and a sponsor, ensuring that all parties agree to the terms and conditions of study. So any form which has been signed by individuals which acts as a handwritten signature, is equivalent to electronic signatures. Similarly, batch records approvals. Somewhere in the lab there are batch records which needs to be approved, right? So that is one of the example. And then some of the consent forms, you all might be knowing about the consent forms, right? Where a patient or a representative of a patient is signing on the document, that becomes an example of electronic signatures. What does an electronic signature guarantee? Electronic signature is a very important topic, even in CSV. We have to validate a lot of things. If a signature is been applied, a record is being approved in a system, we have to consider a lot of points, right? So these are some of the points. What it guarantees is its authenticity. The document information and electronic signatures are undoubtedly from the person who signed it. So it has to be that person who signed it. Then its integrity. The information in the electronic text has not been modified after it was signed, right? It should not be, the signature should be unique. It should not be able to duplicate or forge it. Non-repudiation. The person who signed electronically cannot say it was not them, right? So basically, when you are applying a signature in most of the systems, it will be like, your name, your signature, date and time, and what is the meaning of that signature. For example, I'm an approver. In one of my systems, I'm a business approver. So my meaning of signature is just that my name and signature. So what is the purpose of the signature? I'm approving as a business. So that is important in electronic signatures. The information has been encrypted, and the issuer will only allow that the receiver can decrypt. So it's a disclaimer kind of thing, I would say. So these are some of the things which electronic signature guarantees. Now we started with CSV. We touched upon some 21 CFR Part 11 key elements. What is a record? What is a signature? And now we go a little bit deeper into what is CSV and how CSV will make sure it meets the electronic records and signatures and the above FDA regulations, right? So it's as I said, it's an organized process to meet the FDA regulations. And one of the points here is data integrity. Data is crucial. It should be accurate. It should be trustworthy. When I say data, it may be a patient data, it may be lab information data, whatever it is, right? Inaccurate data can lead to incorrect conclusions about a drug safety and efficacy, potentially putting patient at risk. Meaning the accuracy of data is very much important, because anything we do here, it will actually affect the patient, which is not the intended use of our drug, correct? So data integrity is very much important. Then compliance with regulatory standards. In other words, this is where the electronic records and signatures comes into picture. Okay, so we have to follow these regulations. Make sure you're building the system in such a way that you can apply the signatures, you can apply it falls under electronic record, and it should be similar to how we used to submit manually, right? And then the risk management. FDA allows some risk management. When I say risk, means it's not like, okay, you give incorrect data and patient, it may lead to patient's safety. It's not like that, but what can the risk? The risk here, which this diagram talks about, is like, okay, you might be having 20 set of data, right? So will you have time to validate that whole 20 set of data? You won't. But you take a sample of data, you validate it, give it to the users, right? So that risk, on what risk you are just validating 10 and releasing it to the users, that risk-based approach is allowed in FDA, provided proper justification is in place.
Amit, bye Amit. मम्मी की टाइम आओ अमित.
I don't know, someone is talking. Can someone mute them?
Vinuta madam. Vinuta madam, you can mute her.
Mute చేసా మ్యామ్.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is CSV. As I said, CSV is not one-time activity. Once you release a drug, you have to maintain it. Like right now, Merck is doing Keytruda is a Merck drug, right? It's a long pipeline. So we have to make sure that new things are coming, new applications are coming. Maybe Keytruda initially it is for lung cancer, but it can be treated for some other. The moment you come up with some other, there is a new application and there is a new process. New systems are being built to try that new thing, right? So it's a continuous monitoring should be there, and it's not one time activity. It's not a one time activity. It will be evolving as the drug will be evolving. We will have more information, more systems, more validation activities will be going on. Audit readiness. Audit readiness is, as I told you, right, the system should be built in such a way that the history of that whole activity of the electronic record or signature or anything happening in that system should be visible because this is a crucial thing when an inspection is happening. We have to show them that, okay, this is the patient record, this is what happened on so and so date. And protection of public health. So end of the day, it is all about FDA is looking for patient safety, right, and public health, by ensuring that computer systems in pharmaceutical industry are properly validated, and the FDA can help mitigate risk associated with the use of technology. So just because we are introducing computer systems, that does not mean that we can sacrifice the quality or patient safety, right? So no matter what, you use technology, but make sure patient safety is important too towards them. That's what FDA is trying to accommodate by introducing these regulations, or we doing the CSV activities. So until now, we have learned what is a computer system validation, who implies to this, what are the systems, what are the organizations, or what are the different fields who will do the computer system validation. There are certain software systems which do not require computer system validation, and FDA accepts it. Some of the examples are these, like your Microsoft Outlook or an Excel or a firewall, right? These are called infrastructure systems. These need not to be validated. You can use them for your daily purposes, and that these systems does not need to be validated. Just I'm giving an example. You might be thinking, oh, every system needs to be validated. No, that's not the case. These are some of the examples, few of them which I know, where you don't have to validate these infrastructure systems. You can just use them for drug development or product development and submit it to FDA. Next, role-based activities for CSV. There are a lot of roles in industry, or at least in the computer system validation. I'll just give you a quick overview, right? Business gives the information to the developers, the IT department, saying that, okay, this is my intended use. My user wants a form where patient details should be there, a box should be there for an age, there should be a field as address. It's an example I'm giving you. Or your bank app, how it looks like, right? You have something, your name, address, you can put your maybe age kind of things, right? So this requirement is given to the IT department developer. They will develop the system and give it to you, right? And we also give them information saying that, okay, this should comply with electronics records. It should have signatures, or it should have audit trail. Make sure you're building the system in that way, right? We all know that, okay, username will be accepted, but in which way? Alphanumeric, numeric. So we give the information to the developers how we wanted it to be as from a business side, and they develop the system and give it to us. Quality and compliance, what they do is they make sure that, okay, user gave the requirement, development team has developed the system. Now the quality and compliance makes sure that, okay, according to our company policies, SOPs are designed based on FDA, right? So it's their thing to make sure these systems which are built are compliant with FDA regulations and the codes. It has to have these features. Is it having audit trail features? Is it having electronic records? Is this actually the signatures are unique or not? Though that part is taken care by compliance, quality and compliance team. There are a lot of roles, but a basic level of information is this one. Then phases, I know this might be a little confusing to you guys, but there are different phases in CSV. There is a concept phase, there is a project, there is an operation, retirement. Concept is where you're actually giving the requirements to the you're gathering the requirements, right? Okay, in the previous release, you have a form where you have patient information. In the next release, you wanted to add an address to the existing form, right? So you are gathering your requirements from the users at a concept level, and then at a project level, what is happening is you're actually validating it. Someone is building it, you're validating it. You will have a requirement specification. There are documents within the project phase validation. There will be a plan, there will be a requirement specification, there will be a design specification based on which developers will develop the system. Then a lot of documentation would be there. Okay, you will be doing different types of testing. Small modules testing will be there. Overall module end-to-end testing will be there. That is carried out in this project phase. Okay, and then the operation. Once what was built was released to the users, then comes the operation phase, right? Okay, yeah, we have released the new functionality, whatever it is, a form they wanted, we gave it to them. But then there is an issue. Who takes care of it? What happens to those things? That whole thing is an operation. After we give it to the users, how the system is being operating, continuous monitoring is where the operation comes into picture. And the retirement. There are systems which needs to be retired too. So that's a retirement phase. These are some of the, on the right hand side, you see the deliverables in this whole CSV. It's a very like vast topic. I'll just touch base. I told you what are the documents needed, how a testing will be there. SDLC, it is called Software Development Lifecycle. In that, testing will be conducted. There will be a user acceptance testing. There will be functional testing. Documentation would be there. Okay, this is just a quick gist of the CSV deliverables and the phases. And this is another slide of the phases where it says planning, nothing but concept, and the specification. That's where actual documentation, like a requirement specification, design specification, all come into the specifications. Based on the specifications, the system will be built by the developers. So the code, built, configure is where the system is being built, right? Then the testing. Someone gave the requirements, someone has built the system. Now the next stage is testing. Someone has to test it. They will test to the extent that system breaks, meaning whether it satisfies every requirement or not. So that's what testing phase will actually validate, right? In the testing also we have IQ, OQ, PQ. IQ is installation qualification, operational qualification, OQ, performance qualification, PQ. IQ is installation, meaning, okay, you have built the system, and they will validate the environment first. Okay, can I test it? Before testing it, do I have a, for example, if you're testing on a paper, right? You have a pen, you have a paper. This is an environment where you're testing it. So that's installation qualification. Operational qualification is you are actually testing that particular system where your 21 CFR Part 11 is also being tested. Electronic records, signatures. Okay, system complies with all these things. Does it have audit history? Is patient data being able to delete? Patient is able to enter the data? patient is able to delete the form. That kind of whole testing is happening in the operational qualification. Then performance is something, how well the system is able to take the stress. Okay, if I enter 10 patient information, system is able to take it. Can it take it 100 patient data too? Okay. Or, okay, 10 patient data, it is able to take it in 2 minutes. How much time it takes to enter the 100 patients information? So stress and load test is happening in performance qualification. And then reporting and release. Once the testing phase is completed, we are actually releasing the system, the software system, which has been developed as per the FDA guidelines. We are actually releasing it to the users to use it. It may be any application, right? Maybe it's a drug refill application where patients are actually logging into the system and they are putting the prescription information and taking the drug, right? So once you release it to the users, it's hard to go back. You're already released it. If you have to go back or make any change, a change control process needs to be in place where we say that, okay, the system is working like this, but I wanted a new change. So you have to do a controlled process change to go back and make new changes to the existing system. It's a vast topic. I'll just, for now, move on. This is another topic. I just wanted to, so we are almost covered with CSV 21 CFR Part 11, and I just wanted to give a quick overview of what is GXP. I don't know if you have heard or not, but GXP is a term that um, actually describes about the best practices guidelines to ensure products are safe and met their intended use. And the X in between G and P can be anything. It can be for a clinical system, it is GCP. For a lab system, it is GLP. And for distribution, it is GDP. And for manufacturing, is GMP. So anywhere, when you hear about GXP system, it can be any system which has which is in these 4 fields, right? Clinical, labs, distribution, and manufacturing. So GXP compliance, most of the times, all this CSV is carried out, not most, all the time, CSV is carried out for GXP systems only. The stringent rules are for GXP systems because GXP systems are, the GXP is considered as a crucial system when product quality, patient safety, patient efficacy are being affected end of the day. So if you're making a drug and these 3 are being affected, then it becomes a GXP system. Then you will determine whether it's a clinical system or a lab system, whatever it is, but that's how it is. I want to just give an overview of what a GXP system is. Nothing but a best practices and a control and stringent regulations which needs to be complied. GXP is all about control. GXP requirements outlined by the regulatory bodies ask business to formally define the protocol and controlled process vital to the safety of their end products. End products is nothing but, in our case, it's a drug, or it may be a device, or anything which is the end product. No matter what the sector you operate in and the specific GSP standards that apply to you, you need the tools and quality systems too. So what are the 4 things you need for the GXP systems? It's a control and best practices you need to follow. So you have to make sure you manage your risk, you document what you are doing, and then you control and the controls, best controls, right? What controls you have? You have like user authentication, integrity, data integrity. They all are controls, and record audits. Make sure every GXP system has these points embedded in it. We're almost done. We're at the conclusion of computer system validation as a critical aspect of quality assurance in the pharmaceutical industry, ensuring that computer systems in clinical trials manufacturing, laboratory, and all three GXP systems, right? With applicable regulations. As I said, it's an organized process to validate the intended use, right? And it's a documented evidence. Failure to validate these systems appropriately can lead to regulatory non-compliance and data integrity issues and compromised product quality. It actually leads to a lot of loss if you are not following the regulations, right? With this, I will end my presentation. And if you guys have any questions, go on. Before that, I have one fun fact question for you. You might be bored this, how much time? 45 minutes I took.
Yeah.
I would like to ask one question. It's all related to pharmacy, okay? I think I should have on my phone. Give me 1 minute. You ready for the fun fact questions, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Which famous soft drink was originally invented by a pharmacist? Which famous soft drink was originally invented by a pharmacist? It's a drink which was invented by a pharmacist. Don't Google it now, okay? That's okay. I'll tell the answer. Anyone know the answer? Or should I go ahead?
It's Coke, madam.
Good. Nice. I don't know whoever it is, but they are the winner. Another fun fact.
No.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Another fun fact question. Do you any of you know that me and Mamta madam are related?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Yeah, she's my sister-in-law.
Yes.
I think I'm done with my fun facts and questions. Do you guys have any questions? I'm happy to answer. If not now, I can take the questions later too. Anytime you have any CSV or 21 CFR Part 11 questions, let me know. I'm sure you'll get information from Google too, but just letting you know.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for giving your valuable insights into CSV. We got a clear information regarding FDA 21 CFR Part 11 and who needs to comply with it. And you also gave an vast information regarding electronic records and electronic signatures, role-based activities of CSV, then different phases in CSV, etc., ma'am. Actually, we were not aware of this topic, but we could understand it in a clear-cut way, ma'am. So
If I
thank you.
can,
Thank you for
if you guys can learn little bit also, I'll be happy because
Yeah.
I didn't want to bore you guys. I wasn't sure how well
Actually, this
you
is
guys
an
can relate
interesting
it.
topic, ma'am.
That's good.
Yeah.
Glad to know
Thank
that.
you.
Yep.
Thank you, ma'am. And now the
Okay.
session is open for questionnaire. Anyone, the delegates who are interested to ask questions, you can directly unmute yourself and ask the questions. Anyone?
Good morning, ma'am. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Ma'am, actually, we are related. Your session was too good, ma'am. Actually, even I don't know, as ma'am said, Vinita ma'am said, we don't know actually the A, B, C of this session, but it was a very good and very smoothly have dealt with. Then we got an apt information about CFP. Thank you for that.
Sure.
And I have a question here, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
So we are related to educational system. So can we use this CSV system practically by using any case studies so that our students will be knowing it practically a little bit? Is it possible at the educational system level?
Can you repeat your question quickly?
As we are related to educational institutions, So can we use this at the educational system level and make our students know by using any case studies so that at least they'll have a practical knowledge about what exactly CSP does. So is it possible?
It's not a case study. Yeah, I can provide an example of how a CSV can be conducted on a software system. I have some examples. I mean, I cannot show you a live example, but I have some examples which you can use and see that, from where to where. The one I showed you today is very, very little bit of information, but there is a lot of information more, from where it actually starts, where it ends, what are the phases, what type of testing. There are tools comes into the pictures. So many things are there. If you want, I can provide that information.
Means if the live example maybe can't be shown if it is confidential.
That's true.
That's what. Otherwise, means when we want to convey to the students, we require example. Means the steps are
But
discussed in detail.
true. Yeah. And you have a lot of
For,
information online. Online. You
okay.
don't need a live example. Even I should not be saying YouTube have that information too.
Okay.
Live example showing us it's a sensitive and proprietary information, right? So it's not it doesn't comply with my company to show those information. But you have a lot of information. Sure.
Yeah, actually, few new things we came across today related to this computer system validation. We'll go in brief actually while teaching to the students. But the steps that we have seen today means, for example, the qualification steps where we have the same steps for the qualification of equipment also.
Yes. That's a
Installation,
different thing. So
design.
same thing. Anything, even equipment like you're using a vernier calipers, for example, right? Even equipment validation will also have IQ, OQ, PQ. It has to go through the CSV like this
Yeah.
one only.
So one doubt is if any, because it's electronic signature, electronic records, if we can go for, means one can go for forgery of the signature, how it is going to be detected?
The system is built in such a way that you will not be able to forger it. The software is being built by the developers in such a way that it will not allow you to forger it. You have been using so many apps in your phone, for example, right? Where were you able to do that? It will not allow. The systems are built so stringently with the FDA regulations that you will not be able to forge it.
So you didn't come across till now that type of
Nope.
problem?
No. We cannot. It won't come. So I'm meaning, so these are the strict guidelines given to the developers saying that, okay, just not the signature, make sure this cannot be done. So they will build the code in such a way that you will not be able to forge the electronic signatures. It used to be in manual signatures, but back then also even handwritten signatures had rules where it says if you're striking off, for example, you're striking off a record of a patient record, something, right? You have to strike it off, put your date, time. What is the meaning of your signature? Why are you striking? What kind of activity you are doing? Are you deleting it? Are you replacing it? Are you updating it? Right? That kind of information, they used to put it manually with the pen. Same thing, similar kind of things now being applied in software systems. Now there is no strike. First of all, that whole, once you put the signature, right, most of the times, field is disabled. You will not be able to do anything. That's how the systems are built now.
Any more questions? Yeah, thank you once again.
Sure.
We are going to close the session.
Sure. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good one. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. You can stop the
Dear
recording.
delegates,
Close it.
once I'll take the screenshots, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. So for this session, the feedback as well as assessment form will be shared after the second session.
Yes.
We have one more session at 11:30 by Dr. Aparna. She's from University of Hyderabad. So after that, we will share the feedback as well as the assessment form. Okay, madam, you can take the screenshots.
Okay.
Request all the delegates to put on the video, please. Many of the delegates are traveling to college.
Okay, ma'am, done.
Yeah, yeah. Please close it.
Okay, I'm ending the meeting.
Yeah.